Easter eggs and details you might have missed in Doctor Who Episode 1, Space Babies. This will be a play-by-play breakdown of everything that happened in the latest episode of Doctor Who, explaining what you may not know, Easter eggs and callbacks that you might have missed, as well as my theories as to what might happen next. This is one of my favorite shows of all time, and I'm excited to be the person walking you through the Whoniverse. Don't forget to subscribe. Spoilers if you haven't seen the latest episode. Now let's do this. So this episode picks up after the Christmas special, Church on Ruby Road, where the short version is that foundling Ruby Sunday teams up with a time-traveling alien called the Doctor to save her baby sister from goblins. After learning that he's a time traveler, she hops aboard the TARDIS in hopes that he might be able to find her birth mother. As we learn in this episode, that it's not going to be that easy. Now, if you've never seen Doctor Who before and you are starting with this new era of Doctor Who, first of all, good for you, but also don't worry, I'm going to explain everything as we go. But if you do want a really in-depth primer on this series, I do host the New to Who series on the official Doctor Who YouTube channel, going through all of the basics of the show for new fans. But for now, all you need to know that he's an alien, he time travels, and he usually does it with a companion. Ruby hops aboard the TARDIS that is, yes, bigger on the inside. This is achieved through a shift in dimensions. Essentially, the Doctor's people were able to find a way to cram one dimension into a smaller space. This newest TARDIS interior was designed by Phil Simms, who's worked on huge movies like Guardians of the Galaxy and Captain America. We see it's got the jukebox included, same one at the end of the giggle, and then we get a little exposition dump as the Doctor explains who he is. I know old fans probably find this tedious, but it's a new era, you had to expect this. He says that he's a Time Lord from Gallifrey, but doesn't actually know where he was born. This is in reference to the oh-so-popular Timeless Child event, where the Doctor learns that they weren't born on Gallifrey, but in fact a child from another universe, theoretically, who the Gallifreyans used to splice DNA from and give themselves the Doctor's innate abilities like regeneration, wherein which one can heal themselves after death by transforming into a totally new face. Hence why now it's Ncuti Gatwa taking up the mantle. Now the Doctor's mind was wiped entirely from that period, now only remembering his last 14 lives or incarnations, both of them foundlings, unsure of their origins. I'm wondering if we'll learn that there is some relation between these two. Now he says his name is tricky because Gallifreyans don't use names so much as titles, like the Doctor, the Bishop, the Rani, and the Conquistador. Now the Bishop and Conquistador are just random titles that I know of, but the Rani, on the other hand, she was a character in the show, another renegade Time Lord opposing the Doctor on occasion. She hasn't returned since, but many fans do assume that Mrs. Flood, Ruby's neighbor, is a version of the Rani. He then explains that the TARDIS looks like a blue police box because it disguised itself as such in 1963 when the show first aired, and then it just stayed that way. This is due to a broken chameleon circuit, a sort of camouflage of the TARDIS. It should look like anything, but now that it's broken, it decided to stay that way. It's implied that the Doctor has since fixed it, but just chooses to keep it that way because of nostalgia and, let's face it, branding. Actually, fun fact I found out recently, police boxes are actually an invention of the Americans, which makes me so sad and so angry to think about. He then says that Gallifrey and his people are gone, all gone. Now this is another nod to the Timeless Child arc, where we learn that the Master, one of the Doctor's former friends slash enemies, finds out about the Doctor's true origins and then in anger kills every single one of them. Next they travel 150 million years into the past to prehistoric Wyoming, and Ruby questions the butterfly effect. That is the old time travel theory that says that if you step on a butterfly, you drastically can impact something in the future. Typically, the Doctor makes fun of companions who bring up that idea because effects of the past never tend to change the future permanently, but since the events of the specials, it seems like they've kind of loosened the rules on that front. Now, stepping on a butterfly turned Ruby into this bug alien thing, and I love this scene, it was hilarious. Now, to be fair, a rule in Doctor Who has also been that time can be rewritten, as evidenced with things like Mavity, Pompeii, and the cracks in the universe. The Doctor then blows life into a butterfly to save it and changes things back. Now, he's done this once before, showing the power to breathe his regeneration energy into someone else to heal them. He's usually scorned for that because it's quite reckless and kind of gives his own life to do that, but in this case it was a tiny butterfly, so maybe it wasn't as much as, say, healing Riversong's hand. The TARDIS makes a crash landing in the future, very similar to how it did in the Wild Blue Yonder episode, and then they board a baby farm. And the Doctor points out a Parthenogenesis machine. Parthenogenesis is a form of reproduction where an egg can be grown without the need of, you know, the male part. Next, the Doctor explains the TARDIS translation matrix, able to translate language written and spoken for the relative person. That's why everyone in the show always speaks English, even if they're in, say, France or an alien planet. And one of the words on the screen is Mavity, the word that should be gravity until the Doctor and Donna confused Isaac Newton in the past, and now it officially always will be Mavity. And then yeah, main plot of the episode begins. The ship is run by a team of babies, grown up mentally several years, but physically kept as babies. The Doctor points out the coincidence coincidence about them finding abandoned babies just like Ruby and the Doctor were. Remember, the universe being bent and shifted around coincidences has happened before with Donna. Dalek Khan manipulated events for the Doctor and Donna to also converge. And one thing you'll learn about this show, we never ignore a coincidence. Here's a nice chat with the ship's captain, Poppy, about a core theme of the series, that where these kids came from doesn't actually matter. It's who they are that's important, who they are in the present, because nobody like them exists. That is a theme I think will come up consistently throughout the series. Now, one of the babies here was actually meant to be voiced by BAFTA winner Lenny Rush. Apparently, he was so good in the read-through that he got promoted to an actual on-screen character in a later episode as a scientific advisor at UNIT. The Doctor and Ruby see and are told about the Bogeyman, our monster of the week, the monster on the lower level of the station, and are sent to Portal 357 to speak with Nan-E, aka Jocelyn. Jocelyn tells them that the babies were abandoned because of a recession. The baby farm itself was officially shut down, but it was still illegal for them to stop producing babies, which is incredibly messed up. The farm would essentially keep on creating life, but no one would take care of them, so they would inevitably just die. Now, Jocelyn says that she left the kids in a separate area from her physical body because she doesn't want to see them die, nor for them to see her die. And I think this could be a cheeky foreshadow to the origins of Ruby Sunday. Maybe the person who gave her up was dying and didn't want her to see that parent die, or vice versa. Maybe they knew that Ruby would die if they stayed with her. When the Doctor and Ruby talk about her being left in the snow that night, it starts to snow on the ship. Their memory bled through the universe. This was so interesting. The Doctor later theorizes that the universe is warning the Doctor and Ruby to not go back to that night and interfere. We've already seen how altering fixed points in the timeline can create crazy paradoxes, like the wedding of River Song and the episode Father's Day. The Doctor uses his sonic screwdriver to fix the ship's systems. His sonic is essentially his handy gadget that can scan things, unlock basically anything as long as it's not wooden, and essentially it's his deus ex machina for any situation. They figure out that the Parthenogenesis machine created the Bogeyman as a figment of fictional stories that was told to the babies, made physical out of the baby's snot. Real classy, Russell. Jocelyn tries to blast the beast out of an airlock, but the Doctor can't watch it die, empathizing with it being the last of its kind. Ruby and the Doctor save the day, launching the babies back home using the build-up of nappies as thrust, and we get a fart sound effect. Come on, Russell. The Doctor then gives Ruby the keys to the TARDIS, making her an official companion. Usually he doesn't give a key or that kind of access to a companion with the TARDIS until a little bit later in their careers, but I'm kind of seeing how they're just kind of jumping past the female character has to earn the respect of the wiser male character. Like, Ruby's jumping in pretty much as an equal from the jump, and I like that. But he does specify that he can't take Ruby back to the church on Ruby Road. That event seems to be a fixed point in time that even the universe does not want them to touch. But Ruby then says, nah, it's cool, don't want to go there, I want to actually see my mum, and they go back to Carla and Grandma Sherry, who I will always say and will probably continue saying throughout this series remind me so much of my mum and Nan, both of them Caribbean queens with a whole lot of attitude. And before the episode ends, it looks like the Doctor goes to tell Ruby his real name just off screen, because I guess the name of the Doctor mystery was a big thing that was kind of handled in the 11th era, and then by 12 onwards, it kind of just became a known thing that it's more of a running gag than an actual serious plot element. I mean, considering like 99% of Time Lords are dead now, like Order 66 style, I feel like those rules don't matter so much. But as the TARDIS door closes, it scans Ruby Sunday, very similar to how it scanned Amy in the past, and there was a deleted concept of that same thing happening with Rose. And as it does, snow starts to fall on the TARDIS. What is going on here? Ultimately, I think we can look at this episode as a blueprint for the deeper themes that will be explored throughout the season. The Doctor and Ruby's eternal search for their origins will be a looming mystery, but a key point for them to learn is that where they started isn't important. It's about who they are in the present that truly defines them and where they choose to go next. I really don't think it's a coincidence that episode 1 and the Christmas special were about babies, life, and the start of life, and the finale is called the Empire of Death. I think there's going to be a kind of a Ouroboros situation thing happening. The start will kind of mirror how it ends. Thank you so much for watching this breakdown. This is quite new to my YouTube channel. I'm used to doing a more like condensed breakdown over on TikTok and the more in-depth stuff I haven't really tackled too much. So I hope you really enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the thumbs up button so I know and I can make more of these, and subscribe if you want to see more of this, more explanations about Doctor Who, Marvel, DC, and all kinds of other nerdy stuff. Make this your nerdy safe haven. And discussion for the day, let me know, what was your favorite episode 1 of any given series? I think mine might be 11th Hour. I truly think that is a quintessential episode of Doctor Who. You can find me on all of my socials at Theories by T. I've been Terrell, and that's the T.